Welcome to the Qualified Tutor podcast. Here at QT, our mission is to provide teacher training for tutors. If you are a motivated tutor and you love to learn, the QT podcast will inspire, motivate, and support you to improve your practice. Because tutoring is a small job that makes a big difference. Hello and welcome to the 16th episode of the Qualified Tutor podcast. This week we are very excited to be joined by Jessie Pitsillides, who is a sixth form student applying to universities as we speak. But more importantly, for the world of tutoring and for those tutors and students she worked with, Jessie has set up recently an online mentoring service called Mentor Junior that has been running since just before lockdown and started in person, but obviously had to move to online tutoring since then, and has found that to be a really rewarding and sort of engaging way to connect with students. So we had Jessie and some of her brilliant fellow mentors on one of our free Safeguarding for Tutor workshops several weeks ago, and some of them have signed up to continue on with the course, which is really, really brilliant to see. But Jessie, welcome to the Qualified Tutor podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
That's not a problem at all. It's absolutely brilliant to have kind of these voices on the podcast. We've spoken to those who've been in the business for many, many years, who have lots of experience behind them, and we've also spoken to sixth form students and student tutors, and it's really, really great to have that range and that diversity of kind of voice and narrative. So Jessie, how have you been coping in lockdown? It sounds like it's really brought forward your business.
It has. It's been great, actually. I think that it really was a blow, as you said, when we found out that we wouldn't be able to continue with school visits. So I think taking it online has allowed me to reach so many more families and children who could really do with the extra educational support. And it's been so, so rewarding. So yeah, good things have come out of lockdown for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a wonderful thing. I think, as we've seen as well with our workshops, you know, your reach online is obviously just amazing. You know, that the people that you have impacted with this, you know, the range of people is far wider than I imagine you could have in person, and we've really been seeing that as well. And you've really hooked on to this idea of online education. Have you seen that in your own school? You've been able to kind of take lessons for your online tutoring?
Yeah, so my school, I've been so lucky with my school. They moved to online learning really quite swiftly. And I think that I spoke to some of my teachers to ask strategies on the best way to engage students when, of course, you don't have that face-to-face interaction. And I think that's been really useful for me to take inspiration from my own school. Yeah, I think, you know, teachers have been doing this for many years as well, and I think it's you know, I've 23 years old, been tutoring for 5 or 6 years now. But as you say, you know, there's obviously so many lessons to take from teachers, and we can constantly work with their experience and their knowledge, and that's brilliant to hear. You've kind of been collaborating with them, and kind of on that note, Jessie, I know you're just coming to the end of your school time, but I want to kind of really unpick a little bit what kind of student you are and how that's kind of impacted the way you tutor and how that's developed you into the tutor you are today. So this is a question that I've kind of introduced in a slightly different way, Jessie, but this is something we always ask because we love hearing the answers to. What kind of student do you think you are, Jessie? Wow. I guess you could say I am most definitely a self-proclaimed nerd. I'm so curious. I love learning. And I think that kind of my curiosities just led me to speak to older students throughout the school that study subjects that I'm interested in. And so I've always been aware of the kind of mentoring that comes in with tutoring. So I guess that ties into the kind of tutor that I am, perhaps, that I see it a lot as well as a relationship rather than just kind of passing on knowledge. And I myself, I also had a tutor when I was studying for my Greek GCSE, and I have to say that I went through a couple before finding the right one. And I think that this is something I learned as well, that often you just need to really click with the person who is educating you and helping you with your studies, because it really is a relationship that you are building with a tutor. So I think that this made me aware that I don't only have a responsibility as a tutor to pass on my knowledge, but to also make sessions fun and to have a bond with my tutee. And yeah, that's I guess what kind of student I am.
Yeah, well, that's you've given several different wonderful answers there, Jessie. You've taken up much of my following questions. So, but yeah, no, I mean that's that's the real essence of tutoring, there, isn't it? It's making it fun and engaging, which then inspires that learning afterwards, which is why kind of you're there as a tutor, is to the multitude of reasons why a tutor may be brought on, but really the core one is to improve that learning outside the classroom. So do you think, Jessie, this is kind of this kind of student you are, into understanding what mentoring means and becoming a mentor yourself? Do you think this is what inspired you to create Mentor Junior?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely a part of it. Also, I've always been really aware of the privilege that I've had, the fact that I've, had access to resources and really amazing teachers who give up their time outside of lessons and mentors, etc. And I think that being aware of this privilege made me realize that I was lucky enough to be able to give back. And I think that, if inequality starts anywhere, it's through education. And I think Mentor Junior is a really small step towards helping level out this educational playing field to improve the quality of opportunity. So I think that, definitely my love of tutoring and younger children is definitely one aspect of it, but also addressing the really uneven playing field in education that exists today.
Mm. Yeah, and we've really been seeing that stark contrast that you've been mentioning just there since lockdown began, haven't we? Obviously, the recent announcement of the government-funded national tutoring program, which is helping to kind of bridge that gap or close that widening education gap. So, there's really something in there, isn't there? And everyone in education must be playing their part, and this really is, Jessie, this is one of the starting this young, building a group of tutors in school, in the school environment is a really brilliant place to start, and is a kind of group that we would love to be working with. So that's it's amazing to have seen that grow and to have seen that develop. And I think you're in an amazing place right now, Jessie, to comment on advice for other young tutors out there, perhaps those who haven't come into contact with Mentor Junior, those in other parts of the country. What advice would you give to young tutors now looking to start out in tutoring, looking to start out in the profession?
I think I would say that it's to enjoy it, really. There's such a privilege in having the ability to give back and to share the knowledge that you worked so hard to acquire in the first place. And I think that tutoring offers you just that. So I think having excitement around it is something that I would definitely recommend. And also, I think that for tutors that are just starting out right now, I at least found this, that perhaps there's a slight bit of extra pressure given the different sort of schooling that pupils are receiving during lockdown. And I think just not feeling overwhelmed with the responsibility. Remember that tutoring isn't just about passing on this knowledge, but also forming a bond with your tutee. So yeah, not forgetting that there's a pastoral element to tutoring as well.
Yeah, I think that's amazing advice for kind of any age, any level, any time of tutoring. And I think over the online environment, that's even more important, isn't it? Is to engage with the student. When you're face-to-face tutoring, it's much easier being in that natural kind of physical environment to engage your student and to kind of ask them about their day and to know what's going on in their day, because you may be having tutoring sessions in their home or in the local library. So it's much easier to just naturally ask about what's happened that day. But there is a sense, certainly, I feel, that when tutoring online, there's that slight disconnect, isn't there? There's a tendency to rush into your session. Have you found that there have been kind of changes in the way you tutor and mentor over the online environment?
Yeah, it's everything you've just mentioned, really. So I think I've had to make a little bit extra of an effort of asking, maybe not what did you do today, because, we're all doing the same thing. Every day pretty much feels like the same as the day before and the day before then. So I think, just connecting, finding common ground, speaking about a sport that you both like. I found that talking about those kind of things really helps to just, not just launch the meeting with a math worksheet, but to, ease into them.
Yeah, to ease in, exactly. I think, that's something you probably naturally do face to face, but something you have to work on online. Exactly. And there've been plenty of different changes, haven't there? From kind of the preparation of your sessions, to preparation of your resources, the kind of communication with parents. That brilliant kind of 5 minutes you get perhaps after a session with the parent when in face to face. That has to be scheduled in now. That has to be part of the call. So, kind of building on that, what kind of training and advice do you give to mentor junior mentors before they begin with mentor? Is there a kind of, assume there's some sort of kind of vetting system or some kind of application system? I'm sure it's not multiple rounds with an interview and an assessment day, but how do you prepare your tutors for work?
So my initial group of tutors, when it started out really small with just about a group of 5 or 10 of us, I would sit around with some worksheets of very basic math and be like, explain this to me, because often it's the most simple concepts that are the hardest to teach. And I think that once you get the hang of, explaining these really basic concepts, it goes from there. And I think for the mentor junior tutors now, what I've done is I've collated a bunch of resources that I found online, and I pass them on to all of my tutors so that they have things to focus on in the session if their tutee doesn't come ready with a worksheet that they need help on. I also make sure to interview them, just to make sure if they have any questions about how to start tutoring, what sessions should consist of. They've got a support system and they know who else, they know the other mentors as well. So always someone there to answer their questions.
Yeah, exactly. Always someone there, always, I guess running the service requires you to kind of be in constant contact with parents and mentors and students. And I hope, I'm sure you're getting incredible experience with kind of managing all 3 strands.
Definitely, yeah.
And, I'd love the answer to this next question to be kind of absolutely nothing, but it's really good to self-reflect and to kind of constantly self-assess, Jessie. And what have you found to be the hardest aspect of setting up the service, managing the service so far?
Definitely time management, I'd say. At my school, I'm head girl. I study the International Baccalaureate. I've been doing my university applications, but having said all that, I've enjoyed every single minute of time dedicated to Mentor Junior. It is by far the thing I am proudest of. So, time management or not, it's been going great. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's greatly improved as the service has grown.
Definitely,
I think in the early days, you look back to the early days perhaps, and you think, God, how did I spend a whole afternoon on that? How did it take me and 2 others a whole weekend to get over that? But that's the real beauty of starting kind of at your level, Jessie, is that you'll conquer those challenges, conquer those issues much quicker. So slightly pivoting away from the kind of mentor junior itself, but still looking kind of at the skills that this brings young mentors and young tutors. Mentor Junior was obviously, it was there to bring mentoring to students, and it was also there to bring experience and skills to your mentors. What are the benefits, do you think, Jessie, of continuing that professional development at this level?
I think that, of course, being a tutor in any context, not just with Mentor Junior, allows you to have this self-reflection, which is so, so key. It allows you to really see what aspects of different topics you find the most interesting, and to also improve your communication skills with the next generation of leaders and all of this. And I think that there's so many amazing transferable skills that you get from tutoring at a higher level. So I would recommend it to anyone that wants to not only learn more about their subjects, but to learn more about themselves as well.
Yeah, I think you do find out much more about how you learn. You find out much more about how you kind of deliver content,
Definitely.
kind of whatever level that is. What have you found to be kind of the main improvements you've made in those wider skills you were mentioning?
Definitely communication. I mean, I am an only child, so I don't have any younger siblings, but I mean, from the start of this academic year, I've loved every single student that I've worked with. And I'm just excited to see where it takes me, really.
Yeah, I imagine that's really formed the way that you communicate with other people, the way that you teach, the way that you kind of get your point across. That's really helped you to be, to stand out and to deliver it in a way that shows that kind of that you need to be heard.
Yeah.
Although also, I guess, also having siblings means that you have to fight for every minute of conversation. So maybe there's positives to both.
Indeed.
But so kind of what you've mentioned how one of the best ways to begin or to get mentors to begin thinking about how they deliver content, how they teach students, is to sit down and kind of just talk through, let's say, a maths problem sheet or an English poetry comprehension or whatever it is. But what other kind of training do you think young tutors can access at this time?
I think that training like Qualified Tutor, like all the courses that you offer are so, so valuable. And I think that even the safeguarding course that makes you think really critically about those scenarios is just such a useful and valuable skill that young tutors should be able to have. So I think that it's not only learning about how to deliver material, but also how to form that bond in the first place and how to feel safe and make your tutee feel safe. I think, yeah. Obviously, safeguarding is really the fundamental part of working with children, isn't it? Which is obviously the basis of what Mentor Junior achieves. Is it brings education to young children. So that's a really key point to make. What did you enjoy about the safeguarding workshop that we completed together, Jessie? I know you were a really, really valuable contributor to the conversation, but are there points that you really enjoyed about it, points that you took from it? Yeah, I loved how interactive it was. I think that it really captured that idea that, it's learning isn't just about, sitting there passively and absorbing information, but about, contributing to conversation and thinking more critically about the issues that you raise. And I think that the breakout rooms that were incorporated in the session were really fun and a really useful way to think more about safeguarding. Yeah, exactly. I think we've right from the very start, we've really valued that the time that participants get in their own breakout rooms, kind of without us, the course facilitators. It's a really special time for the participants to think about the content that they've just been hearing about, and it gives them time to reflect on that themselves. And actually, sometimes when we ask questions to the whole group, you've just got to leave it a few moments more than you would have done, because that's the time in which participants, their own ideas begin to form. Exactly. And actually, this is, I guess, a really good piece of advice for tutoring is just when you ask a question to your tutor, your tutee, or your mentee, just let it sit there for a couple more moments than you would normally think is kind of reasonable, because
once they've got over that kind of, I don't have an answer, and they see that you've given them the time to think, then they can start really thinking about the question you've just posed. So sometimes we have had in our courses we've had a question or a kind of discussion point. We've had it sit there for really quite a few moments. And you do obviously start to think, God, is anyone going to pick up on this? But actually, they really do. And it's often 2 or 3 times more in depth than if you just kind of forced an answer early. But that's a really, really great, really important part to pull out there, Jessie, was the kind of the importance of those breakout rooms. So kind of on a similar theme to the tips and the tools that we tried to hand out in that safeguarding workshop, what do you think are kind of your top 3 tips for students moving through it kind of into the end of their school time now? What should students be looking to kind of complete before they move on to their next stage, just as you are right now?
Well, I think for me, one of the things that I always say to myself is be kind to your future self. So all the work that I'm putting in right now, I know future Jessie will thank. I'll thank myself later. So whether that's, keeping up with my exercise routine so that I can think more clearly before a test, or whether it's, putting in the time before a paper so that it's, really well prepared for the next day. I think that being kind to your future self is one of my little mantras that I'll always keep by my side. And I was also going to say that consistency and routine is just, I know it's such a cliche when people ask about, top tips, but they really are so important. I think just maintaining that routine helps keep up with, both motivation and a sense of familiarity with your learning, because it is kind of scary not knowing what comes next, after, having completed 13 years in formal education. So I think that it's great to carry on a slight routine after finishing school. Yeah.
I mean, as I'm sure you'll find out, Jessie, at university, some of those structures do sometimes have the tendency to kind of ebb away. So maintaining that good daily schedule is really, really key, and will really help you to succeed in the university environment, which I'm sure you're incredibly excited about. It's a fascinating time, Jessie, and you mentioned to me before that the number of different things you're doing is really created this incredibly busy schedule that you have, and I think carrying that on is going to be such an important thing. So obviously, remaining busy is how you remain efficient. And it's amazing to hear that alongside applications to English universities and to American universities that you're setting up this Mentor Junior program. I can't kind of end this conversation without asking, where do you see Mentor Junior going kind of into summer and beyond?
Oh, I'd love it to reach its full potential. I think that the prospect of, being able to reach so many families, both in the UK and beyond, perhaps, is so exciting. And also perhaps offering tutoring and mentoring to older students as well. I've been in touch with a few friends who have just recently left my secondary school, and they're willing to give up some time to help mentor students who are looking at their higher education and career options as well. So I think that it's just exciting to see how much scope it can get.
Yeah. And it's exactly, I think that's the point, isn't it? It's an amazing idea. It's certainly one that's desired in the education system right now. That kind of students mentoring students. It's an incredibly valuable way, incredibly beneficial way of connecting with younger students, is to hear from students within the same school but in the years above. And it's also an amazing way of getting those positive messages across from different avenues. So obviously students have their parents, they have their the school environment as well, and you're really hoping that those two environments bring as much as possible to the students' well-being and their education. But having that another avenue to turn to, and that different avenue with it being a kind of another student, is a wonderful idea that you've tapped into. So yeah, Jessie, we are incredibly grateful for you to come on. As we've just been talking about, you probably have 1,000,001 other things to be getting on with, not to mention that incredibly important stage of actually applying to universities, personal statements and kind of work that's handed in as part of the application. So thank you very much for making time.
Oh, thank you for having me.
That's not a problem. We are very lucky enough to be joined by Jessie again this week for kind of this course that we've really been wanting to deliver for a while, but have finally, amongst all the business, got round to finalising and releasing, which is it's really going to be about how to smash that first session with a student, of any level, of any subject, of any age. So Jessie will be joining us for that one, along with a host of other motivated tutors who are looking to really learn how that first session can make a mark. So we're very excited to be joined, to have that as well on the horizon. And we are continuing to deliver this wonderful course to so many young and experienced tutors out there. So that is kind of that's where qualified tutor is at the moment, and it's it's a really kind of an incredibly exciting time for tutors, especially with this recent announcement that we mentioned earlier. So we will be bringing up-to-date information and kind of more conversations with other individuals involved in this sector in coming conversations and podcasts and weeks. But Jessie, I'd like to thank you one final time. Thank you so much for joining us. There's been a lot there.
Thank you.
That's absolutely not a problem. I hope. Wish you all the best with Mentor Junior and with your university applications as well.
Oh, thank you very, very much.
Okay. Thank you, Jessie, and thank you all for listening. Thanks for listening to the Qualified Tutor podcast, where tutors share their expertise to support the tutoring community. We're always looking for motivated tutors to interview on the show. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, get in touch at podcast@qualifiedtutor.org. We'd love to learn from you.